Okay, we had a problem with Zoom. It's nothing that we created. Um, what happened is that it speeded up for about 4 minutes
Yeah,
or so.
at the
Um,
52-minute mark.
and I sounded like Mickey Mouse. Um, that happened in Zoom back in
Well,
June.
I started researching and found out that it's been starting since June with other people.
So there was no control about it, merely tried to slow it down, and I sounded like
Well, you went from Mickey Mouse to Minnie Mouse.
yeah,
But at least I was able to get it so you could hear what he was saying.
yeah.
And I sent that out in an email to you guys with just that little couple minutes. But I think it's a software glitch that Zoom's going to have to take care of.
They're going to have to address it somehow.
Yeah, and I sent them a note, and I'm sure it went into a giant vat of complaints, but
Okay. I just want to go over what we did last week, and I want to tell you what I did verbally instead of by email. I added this tree right here. This is the biggest tree that I added. I needed to enclose this a little bit more. I also darkened the foreground shadow, and I also added a little bit of blue around the house on the pine trees. And I didn't do really too much more um, to this at all. But that was the biggest thing with these two things, and a little bit back in here, and I added maybe a little bit of the brown matter and the yellow to accentuate a few of this um, shrubs here in the front or the grasses. But other than that, nothing else was really added. I just felt really important that this tree would help enclose the focal point a little bit more and bring a little bit more interest to it. So that's basically what I did. I didn't touch really anything else. So that's where I ended up with this. Okay, today, this is a very light, what they call a high key painting. And in other words, there's a lot of lights, there's very few darks. So we're going to be painting very lightly, and I'm going to be enclosing the whole thing in one wash and allowing things just to move all over the place. I've simplified the background to a great degree because there's a excessive amount of trees back here. I put a mass of trees back in here that is in the photograph, but it's way in the back. And I'm going to be very careful about not leaving this uh, really light because it'll draw your eye over there. So this is going to be toned down. This is going to be our focal point. Um, and then I'm going to add a lot more warm colors and so forth in here. The thing about snow is a cool um, value basically, or a cool temperature, I should say. And snow is cooler always in the foreground, and it gets warmer as it recedes, which it doesn't recede too much here. But everything else is warmer in the foreground and gets cooler and grayer as it goes back. So basically, anything white is always cooler nearest you, and it gets warmer and grayer as it recedes. So you have to keep that in mind when you're painting. Even a white building is going to get warmer and grayer as it recedes. So this here will be toned down. This is already toned down. So I'm going to start off by start with the sky, and I'm going to encompass the whole painting in very light, airy washes. And I'm going to take the cobalt blue. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray a little bit of water up in the sky so that things will continue to flow as I paint. So I'm going to take a little bit of the cobalt blue, a little bit of the raw sienna, and a touch of the ultramarine blue. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paint this very light, very quickly. And I'm going to add a little bit more raw sienna to this mixture. Not that was too much. I'm going to add some more cobalt blue to this. I do want to warm up the horizon line a little bit more because it does get a little bit warmer down there. And I'm going to take the cobalt blue. And like I say, I'm using a lot of water in this so that everything maintains its lighter values. So I'm added a little bit of cobalt blue with the raw sienna to the roof. I'm adding more raw sienna to the building because it's got a little bit of a warm glow. And I'm going to encompass the smaller building out in front of it with a little bit more blue. And I'm going to go right across the building here with the blue because that blue is going to influence what I put on top of it. Then I'm going to take a little bit of the
And that's cobalt blue, right?
yes, cobalt blue.
Okay.
So I'm using my cooler blue, which is a cobalt blue. So I took a little bit of burnt sienna here. I'm going to take a little bit of brown madder and some ultramarine blue. And I'm going to paint the massive trees in the background. Then I'm going to take some raw sienna, mix it in with the same color. You never really see me make a new puddle of color. I keep on drawing from the same colors. So, and I'm going to bring that right on down here like so. I'm going to bring a little bit of that warmth into the building to start with. And I'm going to start making this a little bit more intense with more raw sienna. And then I'm going to tone down the building off to the side here because I do not want that being that light. So I'm taking a little bit more cobalt blue here. And while this is still wet, I'm going to throw in just a little bit of cloud variation just to give it some sort of character up in the sky so it's not totally flat. Some more raw sienna in here. Then I'm going to gray down the raw sienna over in front of the building here. So it's not drawing attention. Now, I'm going to take the cobalt blue and I'm going to run a cast shadow across the foreground to enclose the subject matter. I'm going to take the raw sienna and I'm going to add the little bit of grass that we would see poking through. And while it's wet, this will kind of blend in a little bit better. And I'm going to leave a little bit of the white of the paper on the roof and right in the front here. So that will act as a contrast of value and temperature. And white actually is a cool color. That's why I say we need to kind of maintain that. So I started off with the cobalt blue and the ultramarine blue up in the sky, mostly ultramarine blue. I added a little bit of raw sienna to it. And I wet the paper first just up in the sky so that I could pull that moisture down with me so I'm not seeing stop and start marks with the color. And then I started by toning down this building back here with the cobalt blue, a little bit of raw sienna, and this is cobalt blue. I went right across the building here with the same color so that it's all unified. And then I came over here and I hit this building over here with of the raw sienna and the ultramarine blue and a little bit of cobalt, allowing the raw sienna to kind of seep up in a way there so that this building is there, but it's not, I got to pull up a little bit of color here. It's not going to be anything dominant like it is in the photograph. And I actually moved the building in on the drawing. And then cobalt blue across the foreground, allowing the raw sienna of the grasses to show up in here. And while this is still wet, I'm going to bring up a couple of grass is a little bit higher here to show individual, like so. And then just so everything has a coolness to it. And I'm going to wipe the edge of this so we have no seeping back in, because that can ruin an area of the painting. And I'll put it up closer to the camera so that you can see it. But keep everything light and airy. Do not make it dark. So you're using much more water. And I've got to go get my phone. And if you have any questions, please yell quietly.
Which brush did you use?
I use the 3/4 inch cat tongue.
Perfect. That's what I thought. Thank you.
Yep. Deborah, I think you're frozen. Can you hear me, Deborah? Lost Deborah, she was frozen.
Well, she's been having problems, so.
Yeah, I know. You're back.
Yeah, I'm having problems with my laptop, so I'll just try to do it via phone, which I hate, but it's stuck on the Zoom from yesterday for some reason. I don't know. It's it's stuck. So I could see you and hear you.
Yeah.
I heard you asking if I heard you, and yeah, I heard you.
Okay.
But I couldn't get my I couldn't get it off mute,
I understand.
which was the problem.
Yeah, Mary says if
Yeah,
you shut down your laptop and reboot, it might work.
yeah, I had done that once too, and
Okay.
tried it.
All right. Well, I'd stay right where you're at then.
Yeah, I'm gonna just stay with
'Cause
this.
I could
I
see.
thought you looked extremely attentive. You were
I was
frozen in
trying.
this attentive stance, and I was like, wow, she's really listening today.
I was trying to get it going. I could hear everything, and I saw Dale moving, and everybody. I could see everybody moving. I just was frozen.
And it's so
But
warm.
yeah,
All right. Well, I could see you fine.
okay. So I did something. Oops, phone fell. I'll show you where I am. Oh, I gotta get a better stand.
I see your ceiling.
Right. It's nice. You see the cobwebs? Anyway,
Don't we all have those?
yeah. I don't know, it may be too light.
No, you're fine. I'd rather have you too light at this point.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, just leave it alone. Nice light area. It's a very bright day out,
All right.
and the sun's coming from the left-hand side of the painting. And I think we're facing south. So that's why you see the north side of everything in shadow.
So where is this location that you have on the photograph?
This is somewhere about mid-Wisconsin, maybe a little bit north towards Wittenberg. There's a lot of farmland up there. I don't know how they farmed it because it's mostly rocks. The glacier dumped a lot of rocks up there. It's about 2 hours south of us.
Good bacon.
Yeah, they have good bacon at Newski's in Wittenberg.
I thought you said good vegan.
They'll hear you.
It's vegan bacon.
Cool, I'm in.
They have a sign up with probably about 10 miles out from Newski's. Newski's smoked meat products, making vegans jealous for 75 years. Anybody else have anything to show me?
I'm having a hard time getting the right color, the grayish color.
When you're graying down most anything in there, you're using either the raw sienna, which is already grayed down color, or a little bit of burnt sienna. So I'm just using a little bit to gray things down, not much.
Okay.
Just a slight bit, just the very tip of the brush.
Okay.
Because raw sienna and burnt sienna are grayed down yellow and grayed down red orange. So I use those as convenient colors for graying other colors down so that it makes it a little bit easier for the student to gray colors down.
Okay. And I think I'm getting it. I am having a hard time between raw sienna and the burnt sienna.
Yeah, burnt sienna is a grayed down red orange, which is warmer than the raw sienna, which is a grade down yellow.
Right. That's easy to say, but I can't.
I understand.
Yeah.
It takes time to cross mix the colors and find out what you have,
Uh-huh.
what you end up.
Well,
So I did
I
a lot,
like,
I did a
I
lot
like
of
the
experimentation.
fact that it's so light. I like the lightness. I tend to like the light, sort of a blurry look. I like that.
Well,
I don't know.
occasionally I do a few of those.
I don't know where we're going with this, but I like it.
I have no idea either. No, just kidding. The last painting we're doing for this 5 weeks is a no drawing painting,
Oh,
which are always fun. You're painting patterns of light and dark,
oh.
then bringing it from abstract to realism.
Hmm.
And usually the students do very well with this. I did a whole workshop this way.
Those
I
are
just
my
know-
favorite.
What's
I'm
that?
just enjoying
Those are
it.
my favorite.
Oh, they're fun to do
Mm-hmm.
because there is no one outcome that you have to come up with. It just has to work with its own frame of reference. Remember, we're not laboring the first part of this. It's very light, airy, very simple. If you have anything to show me, please show me.
Okay, I can show you. I got a smaller board this time, so it's easier. I got a,
Okay, that's good. Pull it a little bit more towards your left. Okay. It's nice, it's light, it's airy, and it's something to build on.
okay.
Carol, did you show me yours? I forgot. I have a
No,
short.
hi Dale. I finally got an approach, a niche with the one last week that I finished this morning.
Yeah.
So I'm going to observe and take notes in class again today
Okay.
and then share it with you
All right.
as I finish. Thank you.
Janet, how are you doing?
I was working on clouds. So I haven't done the foreground yet. Here we go.
All right, you're getting there. And then very quickly through the foreground. And if you have to spray the foreground with a little bit of water to make it very soft, do it. Because I'm always pulling water or the moisture from where I wet the paper, pulling it right on down. So I know I'm working a little bit faster in some cases, but that's the way it has to be pulled down. Carol, if you have your painting from last week, you could show me that now. Oh, that's nice. Very good.
Oh, it is. It's beautiful.
Janet, close your mouth. That's very nice. And that's what you did in class. Okay. Very good. I'm impressed. For some reason, you're on mute.
I waited, Dale, until I received your final painting.
Okay.
And I used that as my role model, and I used my phone so that I could get a closer view.
You did very well. Very well.
Thank you. Okay, I didn't know if the sky got dark enough because I thought the first one I tried was too dark. But-
No, I think it's fine in relationship to everything else.
Okay,
Always look, you have to remember, I'm looking at it within your frame of reference, not mine. And
right.
everything is going to change a little bit. Also, we're on a computer, which is not going to tell us the truth all the time. But,
Okay,
but you did very well. That's very nice.
thank you. Okay, so I'm going to try that approach again because it was made me feel good.
Good. Excellent.
Thank you. I do find it a challenge, as Donna did, maybe because we're both more beginners, mixing the colors and then keep mixing in successively
Yeah.
Yes.
Great.
at a rapid pace. So
Um,
when I slowed it down on the video, I could, do stop gaps, and that helped me a lot.
okay, good.
How long does it take an artist, a beginning artist, to get to the point where they could take their own photo and know how to do this layering process?
What I think is that you can do this at any time. Because the more you do, the more experience you have under your belt. And you're working from experience at that point. You're not working from a cold plate. I took a lot of my own photos. I used them in watercolor class. I was a slow learner at the beginning, so it's something that I had to cope with. And I was looking at what other students were doing. I was looking at what the instructor was doing. I did not bother going to how-to books because they don't help at the beginning level.
Okay.
They only influence you later on. It's something that it takes time. And like I said, I was a slow learner, and it took me quite a long time to understand what I needed to do in controlling the water, mixing the colors, that sort of thing. I have to tell you, my eyes, after I had the brain surgery and so forth, were still adjusting to what was going on. So it's something that was a little bit different than most students. So my eyes were still fuzzy to a certain extent. And then they straightened out after about 2.5 years or so. But I went through quite a bit of watercolor paper, and I went through throwing out a lot as I progressed through it.
And when I first met him, which was 5 years after his surgery, his eyes were dilated. About 3/4 of his eye was pupil, and you saw a little bit of that baby blue eye that he's got. That
Wow.
graduated back to normal.
If you call it normal.
Well, your eyes.
So you're suggesting just take your own pictures,
Yeah, and
Yeah.
experiment with them.
give it a try,
Yeah.
and how do you determine the initial coloring for what?
I would start off with no more than 4 colors. You want to pick a red, a blue, and a yellow, as I've done here, and I've added maybe another color or two to it to see how it represents the picture. Now, I will tell you, you are always looking to make sure that your drawing naturally is correct. Second thing is most important is your values. The values have to be correct. Your temperatures need to be fairly correct, and your intensities need to be correct. But if you're off on the color, it's not going to be that bothersome. As long as the value, which is the most important thing, is working correctly. Your darks are dark enough, your lights are light enough, because the value does all the work in the painting. The color always gets all the glory, because people think if I add more color, it's going to look better. But if the values are not right, it's not going to look any better. So I do a lot of small roughs on the back, which I'll show you a little bit later here. I do small roughs for paintings that are going to be larger to find, is the composition working? Is the values working? Are the colors working? Do I need to change the color of a tube of paint or two? I'm always looking at that. So when I go into a workshop, if I have questions in my mind on how to handle something, I will do these small color roughs and I'll show the students what I did.
Okay.
It's kind of like a rough draft of a letter or when we were in high school or college, we did rough drafts of our papers and then we did final drafts. It's the same thing because this doesn't come pouring out of our fingertips correctly all the time. No way. And any artist says that they don't make mistakes, they're lying. Because we all make mistakes.
How many Mona Lisas did Leonardo do?
Yeah, I wonder how many Mona Lisas Leonardo did.
He did a lot.
Because he did a number of studies before he got to that.
Yeah, think of all the haystacks.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
that Monet did. And they said that the best haystacks was done in his late 80s and 90s, and he was almost blind, which they need to take that into account. Monet's earlier paintings were beautiful. As they went on, they got fuzzier along with his eyesight. So I never believe a critic either.
Was he the one who had cataracts when he was older and his paintings got grayer?
Yeah, grayer, it got fuzzier.
Okay. I was trying to remember the other day. I'm like, yeah, there's a really famous, and I thought it was Monet, but I couldn't remember.
It was Monet. I mean, he was a fantastic painter, but his stuff got fuzzier and grayer as he got older because of his poor eyesight. So it's something that I think all artists have to contend with. I've known a few older artists that had macular degeneration and made things extremely difficult for them to do anything.
And think of Surratt, that one painting at the Art Institute, that giant painting of the people in the park.
Yeah.
With the pointillism, he went nearly blind after doing that. But when you go up and examine that painting, all those dots he put in there.
It's incredible. Okay, Janet, what do you have? All right, stay right where you're at then. I'm going to start again.
Well, wait.
And let me take a picture of this so that we have a still of it. Okay, now what my intention is with this painting is not to bother with the sky again. I'm going to handle a little bit back in here with this tree mass back here, this line of trees. I did take my paper towel and I pulled out the color that was in here. There's not much there as far as there's good grasses coming up and some small saplings. But I'm going to address the building. And if you squint down, in other words, blur your eyes or take your glasses off, you'll see that this building roof is darker than the sky. You'll find out the cast shadows on this roof are darker than the sky, but the light on the roof is still lighter. This will be darker than the sky because I don't want contrast off on the right-hand side because I don't want your attention over there. So I'm going to start off with the trees in the background, come to these buildings here, this one, and then come back to this so that we can see where we're at. So I'm going to take a little bit of the burnt sienna and a little bit of the cobalt blue and a little bit more burnt sienna. There we go. And I'm going to dry brush this in. So I'm going to dry that off on the paper towel. And I'm going to just kind of fuzz it in here, being a little bit more exact around the buildings, of course. Just to give this enough presence in the photograph or the painting that it has a mass here, but nothing that is too prominent. So I'm always very careful about sneaking up on the backgrounds, that they don't overtake the foreground. And I added just a little bit of extra value, remembering that this is going to dry lighter. And now I'm going to come back into the roof of this building here, and I'm going to take the cobalt blue. I got a little bit of raw sienna mixture here, so it's going to gray it down just a slight bit. Since it's back a little bit further, I'm going to have it grayed down a little bit. And I'm painting this to where it is not the same value going from here to here. I want it to change a little bit. I worry about the dark accents on the roof of the tiles showing through later after this dries. So that's all little detail and so forth that I'll be concerned about later on. And any pencil lines, like I said last week, that are showing through, I'll worry about later. Now, I'm coming down to the base of the building, or the body of the building. I'm going to take some raw sienna, and I'm going to hit that just underneath here. I'm allowing the blue to kind of flow in a little bit. I'm not concerned about it. But I want a little bit of that glow back there. And then we have a little bit of the grayness of the paint coming off. Excuse me. Down towards the bottom. And then we have this building that's off to the side that has a little bit of that red paint on it. So I'm taking the brown matter and I'm going to paint the body of the building just kind of grayed down, and I'm going to let it flow in. So I'm allowing things just to move together a little bit more. I'm going to take some of the cobalt blue here that I have, and I'm going to go ahead and let that flow into anywhere else it wants to go. That way I keep my edges soft. And then we have a lot of blue that runs through here up to this building. So I'm not worried about my edges being too distinct at this time, because they don't have to be. So now I'm going to go to this building here, and I'm going to paint the body of the building first. So I'm taking the brown matter and a little bit of that cobalt blue, because it's kind of grayed down, and I'm going to go right across it. I'm going to do the face of the building first. Then rinse my brush out a little bit, and I'm going to add blue to it for that grayness. Then I'm going to dry the brush off and manipulate the, excuse me, the color that is here, like so. And then I'm going to take a little bit more of that or that brown matter, and I have an accent of that color right up in here and a little bit over here. So I'm going to drop that in right now so I can watch it kind of move by itself and how much is moving. And then I'm going to take it right across through this part of the shed here, adding a little bit more of the brown matter. Excuse me. And I'm going to take a little bit of cobalt blue and dilute it with a lot of water. And I'm going to add raw sienna to that with a lot of water. So we have various colors going on in this shed all by itself. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 1-inch flat and pull up some of this puddling going on. And then I'm going to travel across to this shed, but I'm going to link it with this background color here. And that's raw sienna with a lot of water, slightly grayed down. And I'm making it kind of a spotty application. I am not trying to cover everything that I've put up here. But right in here, I'm going to add more raw sienna. And then I'm going to add the cobalt blue to the top of the shed up here. Just a light coat of it to keep it toned down. I made it a little bit darker on the edge here. And then I'm going to go into the body of the building with some more cobalt blue. And as I come down, I'm taking the raw sienna and allow that to combine with that. And then some pure raw sienna with a little bit of the cobalt mixed in for the grasses that are out in front. And I'm going to bring it across. And I'll worry about making the grasses darker later, but I'm kind of showing a little bit of the different blades of grass at this point. And I'm making it more intense in front of the shed here. Bringing it right across so everything gets connected. And then I'll take the toothbrush with a little bit of that raw sienna and cobalt blue here, and I will kind of spritz that in for a little bit of extra texture. Maybe a little bit of the burnt or the brown matter here. Warm it up a slight bit out in front. And then I'll stop. So I started up here with the burnt sienna, a little bit of ultramarine blue, a lot of water, dry brushed it in around the buildings to maintain the shape so it didn't bleed in. Then I traveled across to this building here, tinted the roof with the cobalt blue, slightly grayed down with the raw sienna. Then the base of the building, I used more raw sienna and put the blue in, and I allowed it just to seep in. Then I came here with the brown matter and a little bit of the blue and a little bit of the raw sienna, and allow that just to move in together. The texture on the building and the detail will be later. Then I added a little bit more cobalt blue so that this sort of fades into this. So I'm not going to have a real distinct edge back here. This is going to have all the distinction right in here. Then I traveled across lightly with raw sienna, and then I added the cobalt blue grayed down with the raw sienna just sort of seeping up so that that keeps that building back over here. And then some raw sienna with spritz of the raw sienna, a little bit of ultramarine blue, and the brown matter. So it's something that I want everything still fairly connected with the washes so that we don't have any division from one building to the other. Let me just take this picture here. There we go. And I'll put it up on the water container so we can see it closer. But you can see there is nothing that is defined too much or overly defined. Everything still has a connection from left to right, and there's no defined edges. So we're not defining things just yet. And we're trying to keep it light and airy. Any questions at all?
I'm gonna show you, I think I lost one of my buildings or I can't find it.
No, because by the time we define everything on this, Deb, I think
Yeah.
you'll find your building you think you lost.
Okay,
We'll shovel it out.
it's totally missing. I don't know where it is.
Well, we have 4 buildings. One, we have this one that's out in front that I look like
Right.
it's lost. Then the one in
Right.
back, the
Right,
main one, and then this one. So
right. That's the one that I can't seem to
well, we're not going to define that
define.
much.
Okay.
But wait, did you add one though while you were painting in between the one on the far right and the focal point one?
There's this one here. This
Right,
one here I moved out a little bit.
right.
And
And then
then
there's the middle
the big
one.
and then this one
Right, in between those two. Yeah, that.
I moved this one out. There's
No,
nothing
in between.
there's
See
nothing
that
in between.
white blob?
No, there's nothing in between. That's the
Well,
field.
then,
That's the field that's in there.
there's no field that goes up that high.
There is in my drawing.
In the distance.
Yeah, there's grasses and trees in here, and then there's a field that goes up that there's not much back there.
I
There's
gotta
a,
review this. At first I thought it was something, but I didn't think it was a building. But then the way you did that, I thought, oh, it's a roof. Okay. So then I made it. All
no, there's no roof, there's no building
right.
um,
Well,
back there. There's just these
I'd have to have-
saplings in the middle.
all right. Let me fix it.
The farmer couldn't afford that extra building.
I thought the same thing at first, though. I
Okay.
did think
Thank you,
that.
Deborah. Glad somebody feels this pain. All right. I'll make that go away.
No building. There's just 4 buildings in the picture.
I can't get that brown that you have at the bottom of the building. I just can't get it.
Here,
Yes, all along there, right.
that is the raw sienna bleeding into the cobalt blue that was watered down. So that it's just sort of diffused into there, which I'll define that a little bit later of where the edge of that building is at.
Okay, I got it.
We're going to do a little negative painting, which is those spaces in between that sometimes are very important for definition.
I'm also having a hard time when I put the brush down. I see where the brush strokes end. It's not smooth. It's not right. I
Yeah,
can't.
the only place you see where it ends is down in here. Everything else is just kind of melded together up here, but I'm only seeing brush strokes start and stop in these areas here. And that's the white of the snow, which I will not touch.
All right, maybe I'm using, I don't know what I'm using.
And sometimes I have to dry my brush off on the paper towel to achieve that.
Okay.
But it's a matter of the biggest thing about watercolor that I ran into as a student is controlling the watercolor. And that takes time. I can't tell you how much time because each individual is a little bit different. But I would watch students next to me having the same problem or they've already manifested the problem. And I would watch what they did and how they handled it. and how the instructor handled it. And eventually I did get the idea of what it's supposed to do. When I'm in this stage of a watercolor, I'm always working flat or a little bit of degree on my table so that the watercolor kind of melds together. Usually I'm working at past this stage, I'm working in an upright position many times.
Okay.
So
I'll put a,
I have an easel that goes on my drawing table. And if I have a very large painting, like a half sheet or a full sheet, I have an easel, I put it up next to the table. And I can move around. I stand while I'm painting, basically.
well, I did order that sheet. I didn't, not using it today because it came late last night.
Uh-huh.
But the three sheets are cheaper. I couldn't believe the size of the cardboard that it was in. And all I could think of was, am
You
I
The indigo
buying
or the decision?
it correctly?
You ordered the indigo paper or the decision paper?
I think it was the indigo paper.
Okay. Yeah,
Beautiful.
it's as big as my table.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's 22 by 30, and I use a scissors to cut it in quarters.
yeah, I did. I cut it. I started to cut it, then the class was starting, so I'll
Yeah.
do it later.
Okay.
But it's cheaper, but I felt guilty using all that.
Oh, don't feel guilty. You're not killing any trees. You're only using up cotton.
It was cheaper.
The thing about the paper, the indigo paper, there is a better side to work on than the opposite side. And when I cut these up, I look at both sides. One side has like striations or roller movements through it, and
Yeah.
I mark the other side from that doesn't have that. I usually mark it with an X so that I don't make a mistake and draw on the wrong side. Although I
Okay,
do use the other side, which I'm going to show you before we start again.
okay, I'll look at that.
For
Donna, where did you find the best price on that?
So far, it was Amazon that Dale had suggested. I went to Amazon. I mean, I do Amazon all the time, so I didn't go to his other areas that he said to go to.
Amazon always has really good prices most of the time.
Uh-huh.
I find they're high on paints and stuff.
Yeah, it depends on what you're buying, I guess. Since we're Prime members, we get free shipping, so that
Right.
That
alleviates.
helps. Right.
Dale, as far as the paints, there's probably 1,000 paints, the same paint being sold by different stores. So one's gonna be cheaper than the other.
Yeah, we go to different stores and find out, but cheap
Amazon.
and Amazon, and different places. But we find that you can get the same paint if you shop around
In Amazon.
in Amazon cheaper.
Okay.
Excuse me.
This is an expensive love, isn't it?
Well, it's like golfing.
Golfing's more expensive.
Golfing is actually more expensive.
I don't know about that. I don't know.
I do love the quality of the paper, though. I love the feel of it. I love fabrics. I love good paper. So
That's,
that's the problem.
Yes, I agree.
and I like I said, I don't use arches anymore because of their lack of quality control in the last 5-6 years. And it's very disappointing because I used mostly Arches paper for eons.
Don't you think oil painting's more expensive than water?
Oh, oil painting is more expensive than watercolor. Yeah.
Even pastel.
Pastels can be more expensive too. A set of pastels can be over $100 for 90. I think it's
Even acrylic.
$100.
Because you need all these different mediums
Yeah,
and
it all depends.
yeah, so I spent a lot more on all the other mediums I've
Oh,
used.
yeah. You know, when we bought our pastels when we were students, a case of 90 or a box of 90 was $19 and some odd cents.
Now they're 100.
Now they're $100.
Unless you go on eBay.
The other, other than Arches, I couldn't find any of those brands that came in blocks. I'm kind of spoiled.
Well, the blocks I'm not particularly happy with because they don't put the sizing on the paper either, because then your watercolor sinks in right away and it doesn't float as it does on this paper here. Why they make the blocks differently, I don't know. Even they have a name brand of Kilimanjaro that I used occasionally, 6, 7, 8 years ago. And it wasn't too bad. But when you get things in a block form, even though it's convenient for sketching outside and so forth, and I have used them, they don't have the sizing on the paper allow the paint to float very long. It just sinks in, and then you can't manipulate it from there. And my way of working with the technique is I do a lot of manipulating with the watercolor, lifting and adding and subtracting. And everything is up to the individual artist. You have other artists that will swear by Arches or some other paper, where it's all personal taste, I guess, and experience.
That dark color, dark for where the trees are between two buildings to the right. How did you get that color, that brown?
That was burnt sienna and a little bit of the cobalt blue with some water, not tons of it, but some water, and I dry brushed it on. So I mixed up the paint, dried the brush off on a paper towel, and dry brushed it on a maneuver going up and down like so.
Dry brushed it.
There's so many different ways that people handle watercolors, and everybody's a little bit different. There was a couple influences on me early on. I bought a book after I understood watercolor by John Blockley. He was from Ireland or Britain, I can't remember where. And he used a lot of texture, but a lot of dark color. But I always was amazed on how abstract his backgrounds were until you step back and it all pulled together. That was one influence on me. Another one was a student I had in my studio class in Indiana. She was taking faux painting of textures and how to do this, how to do that, marble and granite and wood and so forth, because she was an interior designer. And she brought in some panels that she painted and explained how she did it. And that's when I started using the toothbrush. So you pick up different influences from different people.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned a lot from the students over the years on how they see things. So you can teach an old dog new tricks in the art field a lot.
Did I see correctly that when you use the toothbrush, the bristles are facing you?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm pulling back. When I mix up the paint, I'm mixing up kind of flat like this, and then I tip it up. I have a fair amount of water on it, sometimes just a little bit of water, but it's upright. And I flick with my index, and the closer I get, the smaller the pattern.
Right.
The further away, the larger the pattern. It's kind of like a shotgun. But it's an interesting technique to use, and I use it for applying watercolor and lifting watercolor. So I'll use water, just water on the toothbrush and spray it on area and lift it.
I find myself using paper towel to help. Is that good or bad? It seems to I'm doing something wrong where I need paper towel all the time.
The paper towel is okay to use occasionally for some things. I tried it, which I don't have today, but I try to use a paper towel that has no texture or design on it, because that will show up on your painting.
Yep. Yes.
Suddenly you have little dots everywhere from the
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
flower. How you doing, Deb?
I'm doing okay.
You want to
Doing all right.
show me what you got? All right, good. That's where you want to be. It's nice and soft and airy. Good. Janet, where are you at? All right. Yeah, that's good. You could probably be a little bit more intense through here.
Probably because I didn't do that part yet.
I dry brushed it in, and if it's not wet enough, you can spritz it with a little bit of water with the toothbrush to make it kind of push around.
Yeah, maybe I haven't even done the far right building yet.
Oh,
Or maybe I don't need to.
I don't
Yeah, I
think
didn't do that yet.
you're fine.
That's still the first wash.
Oh, well, put a little bit of extra cobalt blue on it and allow the raw sienna to seep up into it. Okay, hang on. There we go. Here we come. Always love that. Merely put a parrot on my phone one time. Polly want a cracker. How you doing, Donna?
I'm having a hard time with the brass at the bottom of the buildings, a really hard time.
Well, take your brush, your number 5 brush that you have, and when
Yeah.
you're mixing up the color, dry it off on a paper towel and put your brush on the side and simply drag.
I forgot the side part. Oh,
That helps. Learning how to manipulate the brush will give you different
oh,
techniques.
okay. I forgot the brush part, the side.
That's all right. I forget where I'm going when I go in the next room for something. So
I've experienced that.
when I had my studio in the basement in Indiana, I'd go downstairs to get something out of the pantry, and I stop and look at a painting, and I stop doing something, and I
Mhm.
end up adding something to the painting. I forgot what I came down for originally.
Mhm. I used to say, there goes my ADD again.
There you go.
I had no problem with it. Everybody has it. 98% of people. Maybe 90.
Yeah, they do. As we
Yeah.
get older, I think it gets worse.
That's right. I don't like to say it's worse. It just happens.
It happens more often.
Yeah. It's,
See what you
you
got
gotta
to
be
forward
careful
to,
with
Jen?
labels.
Janet's the youngling in the crowd here. Okay, I'm going to get started here in a few minutes, if that's all right. Okay, you're there, Janet. Let's see what you have, Donna. See where you're at.
All right.
Okay, good. That's fine.
Oh, okay.
Good.
Thank you. I'll take that.
The only problem with Zoom classes, I can't walk around and tell you what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, tap you on the shoulder to stop.
I know, but I like the Zoom. I didn't know how I would fare with the Zoom classes, but I like the Zoom class.
Well, good. I mean, I like teaching them, but that's the one drawback.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We are going to start back in this area here, and I'm going to start adding some more distinctive darks of the roof that are showing some detail in here, a little bit on this shed, but not too much. Again, you're always trying to track the eye to the focal point, so you don't want to overdo other areas. So I'm going to go back to this shed back here, and I'm going to take some ultramarine blue, a little bit of the brown matter, like so, and a touch of the burnt sienna. Not too much. And I'm going to tap the brush off, and I'm going to lay down the brush on its side, changing value by adding more water to show those shingles popping out through the roof. Just a little bit here, a little bit there, along the edges where it seems to defrost a little bit earlier sometimes. I'm keeping them lighter out here. Then I'm going to go down to the bottom part of the shed here. And I have a little bit of light showing on that building right over here. It's not that important, but I'm going to lift out just a little bit. And I'm going to make the body of the building a little bit darker, not by much, just to show that edge. So I'm going to take the raw sienna and I'm going to mix up a little bit of the cobalt blue in it. I'm going to make it a little bit warmer than what's in the photograph. Over in that area just a little bit. Not trying to overdo it because it does get lighter as it moves back. You take just a little bit of the pure raw sienna, getting rid of the white. And then slowly draw it back with more water. Not worried about the windows. Then I'm going to come down to the shed. I got to pull that up. The shed that's down here. And I want to make the body of the shed a little bit darker so it's a tad more defined. So I'm taking the burnt sienna and the brown matter. And I'm going to grab a little bit of this blue here to slightly gray it. And I'm going to dry the brush off after that first swipe. So again, it's not overly stated. And I don't mind that seeping up, that softening of the edge. It's not going to go that far because of how dry it is to a certain extent. Then I'm going to come down into this area here. And we have this a little bit darker, a little bit cooler. I'm going to slightly grade a slight bit. Not much. And I'm going to make this a little bit darker back in here. And you'll start to see different things appear at this point. And I'm kind of defining the grasses down in this area here. Now, I have a cast shadow on the shed underneath the eaves, so I'm going to address that at this point. right across the tree because the tree is going to be darker. And then I'm going to take the cast shadow that's in here and fuzz it right up into this and across the building. And I'm not really following the form that the cast shadow is doing, but I am adjusting a few things here and there. Then I'm going to come across to the front of the building, and I'm going to use more of the brown matter with a little bit of cobalt blue. And I'm going to strike a line right here. Going to add a little bit more cobalt blue to it. And just kind of fuzz it down. I'll worry about the siding of the building later. I'm not going to go crazy with it. But I am painting around the doorway at this point. As I get down towards the bottom, it's a little bit cooler, so I'm adding cobalt blue. And then what I'll do is I'll dry the brush off and I'll start forming some of the grasses by kind of painting around them at this point. The grasses that are kind of infringing on the building here. And I'm going to take a little bit of the pure brown matter, mix it up in here and dilute it a little bit. And I'm going to add a little bit of accent while this is still dry, or wet, I mean, of some of that extra color. I have a little bit of extra color here. And I'm giving it just a little bit of character down in here. Going around the grasses again. And what I'll do is I'll take my nail here and scratch that in. Now I'm going to go into the doorway. So I'm taking ultramarine blue, a little bit of the brown matter, and just a little bit of the burnt sienna to slightly gray it. And I'm going to put this dark that's in here. But I'm not going to make it the same dark from top to bottom. I'm going to make it a little bit darker up towards the top where it's receiving less light. And then I need to address the roof of the building. So I'm taking cobalt blue with a little bit of the red in it, not much, a little bit of that brown matter. And I'm going to tint where I need to put the cast shadows across the building there. And then I'm going to take that brown matter and the burnt sienna and the ultramarine blue, and I'm going to put in the darks of the asphalt tiles that are showing. And I'm just trying to make an abstract pattern out of it. I'm going to put some over here to where it plays off of this building. And I'm just being kind of casual with it. The smokestack that I added. And a cast shadow for that. See if this is dry enough, which it's not yet. but you're starting to see this kind of emerge a little bit more. This is dry enough, so I'm going to put in the small window I have here. And a small door or another window, but I'm keeping it kind of ambiguous at this point for the fact that I don't want to overstate. So I'm just mixing up the ultramarine blue and the brown matter. Then I'm going to go back. I added some windows back here, so as long as I'm over in this neighborhood, I'm going to take the smaller brush here and I'm going to add in these smaller windows. All of them are a little bit different. And a little bit of the cast shadow underneath this. So it's kind of a warmish shadow. So it has a little bit of the raw sienna in it. I'm going to soften it here and there because I don't want the cast shadow to be too distinct. So I'm taking just a damp brush and going through it like that. And while this is still wet, I'm taking the ultramarine blue and the brown matter, and I'm going to make this a little bit darker inside that opening. And I want to add a same color up into the roof where the tiles are showing. Just a little bit. And if this is dry, which it is, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in the 4-pane window here. Just a little bit to show a little bit of character built up. I know it doesn't show the 4 panes, but I don't worry about that. And I'm going to take a little bit of brown matter here. I'm starting to put in some accents of color here and there. Put it in, move it with my finger a little bit. So that it kind of just sort of blends in a little bit. And I'm adding some more up in here. And as I get down towards the bottom, I'm going to take a little bit of blue in that color. And I'm going to add it down in here, where it's showing a little bit of darkness, grayness, and coolness, and going in between some of the grasses that I've put in.
Dale, in
Yeah.
front of that building where you have some grasses that are light,
Yeah.
how did you achieve that? Did you lift color out?
No, actually, I painted in between.
Okay,
Let me pull it up so you can see it a little bit better.
very effective. Okay.
So that's called negative painting. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this window in. And you can tell the windows are not perfect, but that's okay. I'm going to tone this down just a little bit back here. It's got a little bit too much light showing. So I'm taking just a very little bit of the brown matter and toning that down just a little bit. The tree that goes on top of it will be darker. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to travel across with the raw sienna and a little bit of the cobalt blue, which will help gray it. And I'm going to simply tap off the thing on the paper towel here. And I'm going to add a little bit of extra color at the bottom. All the way across. Again, I'm not worried about that building here. I can define the window a little bit more and add an extra cast shadow underneath there so it defines it. Won't do any more than that. Because if I do any more than that, it's going to come forward. And
What about the roof?
What about the what?
The roof on that far left building to the slant. Are you going to do anything to that?
I may or may not. If I lift out some, I have to be very careful that it doesn't come forward. I want that to kind of be going back. I could do one of two things. I could darken this up on top to push it forward, or I could take a damp brush and lift a little bit on top of that. I'm going to leave that up to a little bit later. So all I'm doing now is I'm taking the dry brush on its side with the raw sienna. I'm going to take a little bit of the brown matter and add a little bit of warmth to it here and there for variety and darkness. And I'm looking to see, okay. Just a couple more things and then I'll stop at this point, and then you can do some work on yours. But I want to take and signify where the doorway is at over here. And there's a little transom light up above it. And I'm just really very simply denoting a little bit of the form on this building. Because again, if I add too much, it's going to be pulling out away from what I want it to be. A little bit more darkness underneath the eave there for the cast shadow. And some more grasses out in front here. Just very simply dragging the brush up and down in a broken pattern. Do not try to connect all of this. And that's where I'm going to stop at this point. We've still got a fair amount of time. I'm going to leave it just as it is, like this. And then we'll put the trees and the rest of it in there later. But this will have a little bit more detail on it. This I will probably not touch, but I will probably lift. In fact, I can do it right now. I'm going to lift a little bit of light with a damp brush. Because if I lift too much out or put too much dark in above it, it's going to come forward. So let me take a picture of it. And again, I'll do a little bit more to this building, but not too much for the fact that, again, it's going to pop out on me. And I want the weight of the picture here and over on the left-hand side. So let me take a picture of it here. And then I'll put it up on the water container so you can see it a little bit closer.
Is the sun coming from, well, you have a big cloud in the upper left. So it's coming from lower below the cloud left.
Well, that cloud could be way off in the distance and not up front.
It looks awfully close.
It's not.
Looks like it's gonna rain.
No, the reason why it's not is because I said it's not. Let me go get some more paper towels. I'll be right back. So all I did was I worked on this building back here with the dark shingles. I didn't add any blue. I added the windows. I had a little bit of raw sienna gray down for the building. I darkened in underneath it. I had a little bit of detail to this, but all the work was done here. And then a little bit of work done over here, and then dry brushing the grass in. That's all I did. So you got 2 minutes. Just kidding.
I have a question.
Yeah. Go ahead. You're on mute for some reason.
Thanks. On the far left, you just put in 2 windows. Is that because there was a building there that fell down? Because it also looks like a brick wall.
In the photograph, there's only about, I would say, this much of the building showing.
Right.
What I did is I moved it out. I reconfigured a little bit, but I added some windows there underneath this or on this building, minor thing. Back in here, there's going to be some trees coming up, trees here. I'm going to add a little bit more to this building and probably another cast shadow movement across here. This will be the biggest changing effort that I'm in the foreground that will push that back a little bit. But this building I dragged out a little bit. And I did add windows in here. Whether I make the windows more apparent or not, I don't know yet.
Okay.
So Dale, this building on the right, what'd you do to it?
I added some of the shingles showing through. I probably need to be a little bit more defined in that. I added the doorway and a window, and a little bit of the grasses out front, but I need to define this just a little bit more because it is looking at it from a distance. This needs definition just a little bit more to be in tune with the rest of these buildings. It's got to have at least this much definition, and it doesn't yet. And now that I've done this work down here, I'm questioning whether I want to adjust or address the sky again very lightly. There's always things that you got to look at in the middle of a painting and allow the painting to tell you what you need to do in some cases. And of course, the darker trees I'm putting in will help fill the area a little bit. That's why I'm still questioning the sky. Yeah. Excuse me. Any questions at all?
No, it's just looking at it. Well, you can tell me where I'm going wrong. Where am I? What I
You have this a little bit here on the darker side, and you're not showing enough red of the brown matter. So you might
Okay.
want to lift up a little bit with a damp brush and add a little bit more red to this.
Okay.
The
What
rest,
about what
rest
about the other building over there to the here?
you can lift out the roof a little bit more. I'm going to make that a little bit more distinct up in here.
Oh, it's a roof. Okay.
That's a roof to the building.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, there's a roof right on top of this.
Lost, I lost I lost my roof.
Farmer's not going to be happy.
It's tornado season.
Tornado season.
You're gonna have to put a little dog in front.
Go
Tell-
ahead. Go ahead, Janet. How we all doing?
Struggling.
That's stubborn.
Be right back. My battery to my iPad is not my computer is going down.
Okay. Anybody have anything to show me? Nobody has anything to show me. I'm gonna have to get started again fairly soon, just so you know.
Okay, one last look.
Okay. All right, you're getting there. As soon as we get the trees in and the cast shower in the foreground, it will hold together.
Oh, I hope so.
It will.
Oh, I see. See where it-
Okay, I guess I can show mine. Oh, wait a minute. No, I can't. I have to need one more line.
One more line.
Mm, okay. I still am having a hard time getting that dark brownish gray. I just can't get it.
Where is it at?
Down the bottom of the buildings where it meets the snow. Here, let me show you what I did.
Right in here?
Yeah, this is what I did.
All right. Well, that's coming along nice. This is the raw sienna with a little bit of the burnt sienna in it and
Okay,
a touch of the cobalt blue. That's all it is.
raw sienna.
And I dry brushed it in with the side of the brush.
Okay, raw sienna birds.
Raw sienna, and then just a touch of the burnt sienna and just a touch of the cobalt blue. And then I dried the brush off on the paper towel and I dragged it sideways in different directions on the paper.
Still not getting it. Still not getting there's a grayish blue in there and I can't.
Add a little bit more raw sienna to it then.
Getting closer.
Here it sort of has a slight green cast, which you could understand if it was a mixture of the
Yeah,
raw sienna and the blue.
yes. Especially right in here.
Uh-huh.
A dry brush.
Yeah, tapped it off on the paper towel and then used it on the brush on its side and dragged.
Yeah.
Not pressing down on the brush too much though.
Okay. I'm not getting your pretty look though. Now, this is my third time and I'm expecting to get a pretty look like yours.
Donna, in 30 years, we'll both.
I know, I'm just kidding. Oh no. I think I'm getting some of it.
I gotta live a long time.
There you go. It took me a while, but eventually you will get it.
Yeah. Mm.
Janet, let's see what you have. Don't shake your head no.
Well, I just ruined it because I didn't realize we were supposed to have raw on this side. So mine's a little dark. And this is supposed to be light and airy. So
Well,
much for light and airy. All right, there we go.
that's not bad at all. That's good. You're fine.
Okay.
I'll take another look at yours, Donna, and see where you're at.
Okay, just one little coat. I'm getting there. All right.
All right, that's good. All you need to do is to bring this out a little bit more into here later on.
Okay.
Just dry brush a little bit lighter. So I'm going to start again.
Okay.
And we're going to get to the finished part of the painting. And it's a lot of little things at this point that I'm looking at. And I'm going to start off with something very little here. Take the ultramarine blue and the brown matter, and I'm going to add a little bit of the brown burnt sienna also. And I want to add the little bit of the portion of the roof that I was missing here, like so. Now, what I'm going to do, a little bit more dramatic, is I need to wash in the foreground a little bit more with a little bit more cobalt blue. And I'm going to add just a touch of the raw sienna to it to slightly gray it. And I'm going to go across the foreground here very quickly. And that does change the look of the whole painting. Then I'm going to go across through up here a little bit right in there. Bring a cast shadow through there. And take a damp brush and soften it right through here a little bit. So I don't want too many hard edges up front because it will attract the eye. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of this mixture here and I'm going to add a little bit of cobalt blue to it. Dry it off a little bit on the paper towel. And I want a little bit more distinction in these windows back here. But I'm making the windows a little bit different so that we don't have all the windows the same way. Then I'm going to take a little bit of raw sienna mixed in with that, and I'm going to run that across through here. Even though it's not on there, I feel it needs a little bit more distinction. And I'm going to drag that color down around the window frames. So that that building has a little bit more character. And I'm going to add a little bit of the tiles up on top being a little bit darker, just so it's a little bit more distinct. Now, on this here, I want to run a little bit darker on top of the roof there so that this roof comes forward a little bit. Now I'm going to jump across to here. There's my method to madness while I'm moving around because things will then dry for me. I want to define the doorway just a little bit more. Because that will help the building come forward just a little bit more. And I'll bring this up closer. I'm not making the whole thing with value in here. I'm making kind of some passages showing the original wash and so forth. Then I'm going to take the raw sienna very lightly with whatever I had in my brush. And I'm going to warm that up just a slight bit, showing the clapboards on the side of the building. Then I will darken in underneath the building, just underneath the eaves just a little bit. Not too much. Drag some of this stuff down into here very casually so that this building still won't be popping out at us. And then I'll take a little bit of that brown matter mixture I have up in here with the raw sienna and add a little bit of darkness to the tiles that I want showing through. And that should kind of suffice for that, because then it's off to the side. With the building here, the main building, I need to add a little bit of darkness along the eaves where the tiles are showing. There's a lot of little things I want to do before I put the trees in. That helps define the building just a little bit more. And then I will take and I'm going to darken in the doorway just a little bit more and define the building just a little bit more. So I'm going to take and add some darkness in there so that it comes out just a little bit more. Dry the brush off to get moisture off, drag some of it down into here, define this window over here a little bit. And I'm going to darken underneath the eaves just a little bit. And I need to turn a corner here with a little bit more value change. I'm making it darker. And I want to put in some of the darks that are in the building down here at the bottom. Not too much. And then I'm going to take the pure brown matter and I want to bring a little bit more color into the side of the building that's facing us. So it kind of comes forward a little bit. And I'm going to put a little bit of color in there, here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift out right up in here some light that I let go till this point that the snow is showing right there. And I'm going to darken in this part of the building. Now remember, this dries lighter, so you can assume it's going to dry quite a bit lighter. Now, I'm going to lift out a few boards in the front of the main building here by taking my 1-inch brush and just lifting just a little bit, not too much. Now, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a razor blade just from my X-Acto knife. You can see that. It has to be dry, and I'm going to pull out a little bit of light on the grasses before I start with the trees. I'll start with the trees in the background. But before I do that, I want to put in a little bit of darkness underneath this building here. That it's kind of up on posts. It's not in the photograph, but I thought it needed a little bit of description back here. And I still want to make a little bit of a darker statement underneath the eaves here. Not too much. Okay, now we'll go into the trees. Now, I'm going to start in the background with the trees and build it up slowly. So I'm going to take the burnt sienna and the mixture I have on the ultramarine blue here and a little bit of cobalt. So I have kind of a grayish brown. And I'm going to start in the back of this building and move across. And I'm dry brushing these. All the main branches first. I'm going to add a little bit of raw sienna to that mixture so that I have a little bit of warmth back there.
Those colors again?
The burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, and a little bit of the brown madder. Now, before I take this going across, I'm going to take my rigger, which is my smaller brush, and I'm going to put in the finer handling of the branches that come through here. So I've got some warm colors in on the branches, some cool colors. I got finer branches. I've got lighter. And as I've just lightly put the brush to the paper as I'm doing this, I don't try to push down on the brush. So I'm adding some cooler colors in here. And then some warmer colors, some darker colors, some lighter colors. A variety of things I'm doing within here. And I'm adding some smaller trees I did not draw in with the pencil because I didn't know if I wanted more or less. So I'm adding a little bit more right now. And I want a feeling of a number of different things going on behind this building. More so than what I had drawn in. So I'm looking at how this is looking. Now, I'm going to come out front here where I have some of the, I don't know what you call saplings or whatever overlapping this building. And I'm going to start with this. So I have a darker combination of color of adding more ultramarine blue to the burnt sienna and the brown madder. And then one in back here. And I'm, like I say, I'm adding different blues, I'm adding browns, I'm adding reds, so that it starts taking up some more room in the sky, which will help hold this together, and overlapping the trees onto the roof. So I'm making this quite dark so that there's a little bit more contrast. And then I'll add a few over here. And again, it helps combine the shapes together a little bit, very simply, very airy. And it also makes the other buildings fall back because this is darker. Now, I'm going to start with a few little things out here. That overlap the building there. Then I'm going to come out with the larger brush into these trees and those trees back there. So I'm going to warm this up just a little bit with burnt sienna and a touch of the ultramarine blue. Putting a little bit more value change in on these. And then I'll come in with the smaller brush with some cooler colors and fill this in a little bit more. And as we go out towards the end of the tree, they get lighter, they get a little bit warmer in value because it's the new growth. And this starts to help hold all of this together. And I'm trying to make every tree look a little bit different in value and in temperature, so that it has enough variety to help keep moving the eye, that they don't all look the same. You want variety in whatever you do, even if it's a slight bit, and overlapping shapes. And then the last tree over here, I'm going to make a little bit cooler since it's in the background, and a little bit lighter. Then go to my smaller brush.
Dale, I'm gonna have to leave. I'll pick it up on the I'll pick it up on the recording.
Okay, you have a good weekend. I just have a few more things that I want to do, so you're not missing that much. And then finally, last but not least, I'm going to add a few little darks in here for the negative part of the painting, so it pushes out the lights. I think I need one or two saplings in front of this building. And a little bit of burnt sienna mixed in with the raw sienna. I'm gonna tip this up so I can see it. I'm gonna put this in here, out in front of the main building and a little bit beyond. And a couple little saplings coming up in between to help bridge this space. And I think that's about where I want to leave it. So let's take the tape off, see what we look like. Because that gives you an idea of the white paper gauged against the colors that were put on the paper. I'll put that up close that you can take a snapshot of it if need be.
Good job.
I
Thank you.
got all the numbers covered.
I'll have to work on that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You have
It
a
was
good
fun.
weekend.
I like it.
Good, sold.
You have a great weekend too. Bye,
too.
everybody. Have a good weekend.
All right,
Okay, bye, everybody.
don't fall in the snow.
Oh, I need to go.
It's pretty.
Okay, leave.
Any questions before we leave?
Yeah, the trees are a killer for me.
Practice on a piece of scrap paper,
Yeah, but I obviously need to practice.
how to lay them in. Remember that the tree branches jut in different directions. Whatever you do, don't make them look like rubber, number one. Number two, while you're going up and over and around the tree, change your color, change the temperature of it so that you can see that this is a little bit darker over here and I got lighter and less distinct over
Yeah.
here. But they're all a little bit differently. And that you use the smallest brush you have for the branches that go up and out.
Okay. Okay, I'll get to it right now. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Dale, do you only use one size rigger for those trees?
I believe, I don't have a number on this anymore. I've had it for a long time, but I think it's a number 3 rigger.
Okay,
Sometimes they'll call it a liner brush.
yeah, okay,
In the rosemary, it's a rigger.
In the rosemary, it's a rigger.
okay. Thank you. Wonderful class. Thank you.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yep, you'll see what I do. So will I.
Good.
An adventure. Thank you.
Hopefully we don't have Mickey Mouse interpreting for me.
Hey, you can only do what you can do, right? That's
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, that was nobody's fault.
No, and it doesn't matter anymore. You just have to take what comes in life,
Yes.
you know?
Yep.
Okay, have a good week. Thank
too.
you.
Bye-bye.